Well, good morning, everyone. Long time no see. Um, it's been an interesting year, to say the least. Uh, I'm sure everybody has seen the last video. That is sort of what's been preoccupying a lot of my time. So to get a few things out of the way first, I suppose I should thank everybody for subscribing. I got a notification the other day that I had surpassed 1,000 subscribers, which is insanely weird considering that I haven't really uploaded anything in, I think it's been over a year since the last video came out, or the last two videos I should say. I keep forgetting I put up two. It's early in the morning, so forgive me for not sounding too terribly enthused. I'm just waking up. I have one full mug of coffee in hand. It's probably going to be a 2 coffee morning. I've been on the road for the past 3 days on business. And for those of you that have been following certain groups on Facebook, you would kind of know what that business is. Just look here and see what's. I know there's another train coming. I also want to apologize for the microphone that I'm using. I don't have my snowball with me, so I'm using my headset mic. This is the one that I haven't used this one in forever. Um, yeah, we got several. That's the one that just passed. It should be, yeah, we've got a couple coming. So, yeah, they'll be here in just a second. Anyway, I forget what I was gonna say. It's been a year. It's been a long year. Um, I'm trying to think of how to go through all this. I don't want this to be a terribly long video because there's not a whole lot to talk about, but there is. And there's a lot of stuff that I can't talk about. So I'm going to tell you that right up front. There's a lot of stuff I cannot talk about for various reasons. I'm not going to go into it. But I guess I should, at least explain. Hold your ears for just a second. I got to adjust this headset because it's creaking on me. As in terms of where I've been, so I'll give you the long version of a short story. In January of what year was it now? I hope you didn't hear that too much. I had to adjust my headset again. In January of 19. No, I'm sorry. In January of 20. I turned in my resignation at the company that I was working for in Georgia. It had been a long time coming. It had basically been 3 strikes. There we go. I thought I was hearing it in my left headset. Move out of the way here. We're just gonna watch trains because I don't feel like moving around because it's it's morning time. So in January of 20, I turned in my resignation, and it was, like I said, it was a long time coming. Basically, the company had gone through 3 strikes with me, and I left. It wasn't 3 strikes against me. It was the way that I've always approached the job is that it's basically 3 strikes, especially if I'm not happy. It's like I will put up with so much, and then I finally say enough's enough. I had not been happy with that job since about year 2. I had been down there for 5 years. When I finally left, I'd been there for going on 6. I was in about year 5.5. I had finally got completely fed up with it, and there was an incident that happened on New Year's Eve. It would be December 31st, 2019. That preempted my leaving. I won't go into the details of what that was. Some people are going to know about it. Some people are not going to know about it. It happened. It was a particularly bad thing. It was one of those things that they had been warned about could possibly happen. And just, I'm never going to say the company, but just to give you an idea of what was going on, we were continually telling them, there is an issue here. There is an issue here. We need to fix this. We need to fix this. And their approach to it was, well, what's your risk assessment of it? And I remember asking them, like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it to fail? I'm like, wait a minute. That's not how this works. It's either going to fail or it's not going to fail. In my experience, I've seen components that look like absolute garbage that look like they could fail at any moment. And when you get in there and you take them apart, um, they're perfectly serviceable. There's nothing wrong with them. They just look bad. And I've also seen the same thing where they look hideous and they're bad. And I've also seen them where they look pristine and they're actually bad. So when a company asks me, "What's your whatever? What's your risk assessment that this could possibly happen?" I don't know what to tell them because in my world I don't deal with um, I don't deal with that sort of thing. There should be another one coming here in a second. Um, it either breaks or doesn't break. By the way, you might hear my little space heater. It was what was it? What's the temperature right now? I think it's like 13 or something like that. It's 14. It's 14 degrees right outside right now. So a little on the chilly side. But what I ran into with this company was, and I found this out very early on, they were looking for people to take the blame for something. Um, what's a good way to describe it? We'll go. Let's see if we can catch this one. Oops. Let's see. It should be coming. We'll hear him here in just a second. So basically, what it was is they were looking for people to take the responsibility for something, and I learned very early on that what they were wanting was actually someone to say, "Yeah, we need to replace this component because hellfire and brimstone. It's got to come off. Got to come off. Got to come off. Got to come off." And you replace that component, then you find out that it's not. It didn't really need to be replaced. And then if that component cost the company $100,000, then they do a review of it, and they're like, why did we spend $100,000 on that? That was perfectly serviceable. It didn't really fix anything. That didn't fix the issue. Why did you cost the company $100,000? That was basically the mentality. It almost happened to me. There was a repair that needed to be done on one of the locomotives. Um, Basically, it needed new trucks. They're completely wore out. They still need new trucks, by the way. But essentially, what it was they were down on the safety hangers for the swing hangers, and the company to do that work was what was it? It was 75,000 total, I believe. Okay, a detector. Yeah, it was $75,000 total. And we kept telling them, we're like, we need to do this. We really need to do this. And they were like, well, is there any other way? And I said, well, there really is not. You really should take the trucks out, have them rebushed and gone through the whole 9 yards. Um, you know, Later on, we came back and I said, well, maybe we can just do the bushings on the swing hanger. That's a $3,000 to $5,000 fix. Well, then to no end, I'm catching hell from the company. It's like, well, you said it was going to cost $75,000. Now you're saying it's only going to cost $5,000. And I'm like, listen to me. It's not a fix. It's a patch. You know. And in the railroading world and in the world in general, nothing is more permanent than a temporary fix. And I told them that. I told them that word for word. I said, In my world, you fix it, you don't patch it. When you patch, that's when you start getting into problems because then it becomes a band aid on a broken bone. And I said, we should really fix this before it becomes an issue because there were other things going on with it. They had support bearing issues and whatnot. And I was like, you need to just go ahead and do the truck, put a combo in it, you know, get new stuff on this thing because they were riding rough. And I tried to tell them, I'm like, as these locomotives ride rough, they're tearing up the infrastructure in the track. And I'm like, it's a package deal. Not only are they rough on the track, they're tearing up wheels, which is maintenance cost. Um, they're wearing out the running gear on the locomotives, which is a maintenance cost. And, you know, it's rough on the equipment in general. So, um, you know, I didn't know what way to. I really could not deal with it at that point. Is I guess the easiest way to say it. Um, I think the train's gonna come from that way. Let me double check here. The Silverwood goes off. No, it's gonna be coming from this way. Isn't that right? No. Yes. Yes. No. Maybe. No, it's gonna come from this way. Should be coming up the hill here. Um. So yeah. Long story short, we had an incident that happened on December 31st, 2019. I basically had made my peace with it and said, I'm done. I am done with it. It was something that we had been warning them was going to happen. They kept turning a blind eye. And of course, once it happens, then they're like, well, why did this happen? Why did this happen? And it's like, well, you see this right here? That's what I've been telling you for months. And you've all turned a blind eye to it and said, well, just, these railroad guys, they don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, so from there, I was trying to debate on what to do. Um, finding a job at that point was fairly hard. I almost pulled the trigger on one that I knew I wasn't going to be happy with, but it was like I need to get away from there before something bad happens. Because in my heart, I knew that if I had stayed, they were going to find a reason to get rid of me. They were either going to make it so terrible on me that I would quit, or they would find a reason to fire me. Which, matter of fact, after I left, they found a reason to fire one of my coworkers, who was actually my lead. He was the lead over the shop. They found a way to fire him. So now my supervisor is there pretty much by himself. He really doesn't have anybody with any kind of experience. I'm trying to take care of him though, so that's it's neither here nor there. I won't go any more on that. Anyway, so in January, about mid-January, my boss is friends with someone who drops it into my head. They were like, there's this job. It's a temporary job, but it would be a good way to get your foot in the door to do work on steam locomotives. And I'm like, well, I really don't want to leave a quote unquote secure job where I'm, getting 40 hours a week. And then I had benefits and everything else, vacation time, insurance, the whole nine yards. I didn't want to leave that and go into a job where there's really no stability. And the more I thought about it, I was like, I'm really not happy, and it's taking a toll on my health, which it was. I was dreading going in every day. And it's weird now. There it is. There's our train. Oh my God, it's a train. So yeah, I was dreading going to work, and let's see if I can get this thing. There we go. How about something like that? I was dreading going into work. I wasn't happy. It was taking a toll on me mentally. I was just not fun to be around at all. It was just like I would come home and just shut out the entire world. I just did not want to talk to anybody. And even at work, it was like I just don't want to talk to anybody. She's like, I just want to come in, do my thing, and then go home. And it's God, it is so hard on your soul when you do that. Anyway, so I had this offer to go to work on a steam locomotive. It wasn't going to be a running steam locomotive. It was going to be a cosmetic restoration, and it was at a certain museum in a certain northeastern state, and it was a certain big locomotive that they were doing a cosmetic on. So I bit the bullet, took it, went up there. I was up there for about a week and a half, and they were doing work on it, and I worked on it for about a week and a half, as I said, and then they started doing some work that we could not be present for. So I left. I went to work at I went to do some work at a railroad in Tennessee because I knew somebody that worked there, and I was like, hey, can I come down and work for a week or so? So I went there and worked for it was probably about a week and a half there too. And the weather was starting to get bad. It was like, I haven't really been home in years. I haven't spent any time at home in years. So I worked up there for a little over a week. And I went home. And literally the Friday before I was supposed to go back to the cosmetic job, um, I got a text message from my boss saying the state's been shut down to everybody's favorite thing, and only non-essential workers are allowed to come back. And I'm like, well, fudge. Except I didn't say fudge. So it's like, well, now what? Luckily, I had some money in my 401, and I made the hard decision. I was like, I'm not contributing to my 401. God knows how long I'm going to be out of work. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. I was like, yeah, this is probably going to last longer than that, and normalcy is just not going to exist for a while. There's actually frost on my window. That's crazy. I'm sorry. Yeah, squirrel. Uh, so I'm like, what do I want to do? There wasn't a whole lot in my 401 because I'd only been contributing to it for about a year, but I'm sitting there watching the number, and it's going down like thousands, and I'm like, yeah, let's just go ahead and cash that out. So I pulled that out, and I said, this is money that's going to make me survive. And went home, helped my parents out, did a lot of work around their house, um, and tried to get by as normally as I could. After about 2 or 3 weeks, I was absolutely bored out of my mind. 2, 3, 4. I was going to say they're all EMD, but not quite. So, I'm sitting there at home bored, and out of the blue, totally unexpected, I get a phone call, and it's from my boss that I was working for in Scranton. Oops, sorry. Ignore that last part. It was for my boss that I was working for on the cosmetic restoration that shall not be named. Got a call from him, and I went. He was like, hey, there's this project that's had a rocky past, and this is probably, they've been able to get some money up to start working on it and potentially finish it. He's like, will you be interested in doing it? And when I knew the project, fairly well. I knew that they had had a very, very rough time, keeping the project going. It had been mired with delays and setbacks and money issues and whatnot. But I knew that they were getting close to finishing it. He was like, this is the best chance they have to get it done. I was like, sure. We worked out the details on you know, money and whatnot. And that would have been, he called me in April. So in May, I'm off to the Northeast again. Uh, I'm speaking in cryptic messages. It's not like it's any freaking big secret. If you've seen the last two videos, you know what I'm talking about. But it's like, I don't like openly admitting that stuff. It's like, if you figure it out, bully for you, get yourself a cookie. But it's like, I just don't want to, come out and say it because it's unprofessional. I don't, even if I worked for Norfolk Southern, I would not come out and say that I work for Norfolk Southern. I don't know anything about Norfolk Southern. I don't even know what color their engines are. That last part was a lie, but you get what I'm saying. Um, so I go up there in May, and we go to work, and it was only supposed to be a temporary job. We were supposed to work into about June or so, because there was a major milestone that they were wanting to do in June, and worked up there until then. As I was working, I really started liking the place. Uh, it was a complete 180 from the job that I had previously had, which was, uh, it was a complete 180 from the job that I had previously held, which was basically, it's all your fault, it's all your fault, to, we're so glad that you were here. What can we do for you? You guys are saving us. You guys are getting this done, and so on and so forth. I think this one's. Did I get the right one? Yeah, that's that train there, so we should have one coming from that way. So look at that one. We'll rail fan a bit. So yeah, it went from, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? What's the justification for that? To, what can we do for you? And complete 180. It went from a company that was only concerned about the almighty dollar to a company that actually cared about its people. And it is still true to this very day, because I'm still with the same people. But we went from a temporary job. I was there till June, and then that was when the work time was over. I took July off to go back home and do some stuff at home. Got a call back in August. They were like, "Hey, do you want to come up here and continue working?" I was like, "Yeah." So August, September, October, November, on into December, I came back. Now, most of you know what I'm talking about, but about what I was working on and who I was working for. I'm still there, and I know a lot of you are wanting to know about, said project. I really cannot talk about it. What I can tell you is, Trains Magazine did a very good write up. I know Mr. Wren personally. He was literally embedded with us for 3 weeks. Um, it, it's so funny. We've had so many people say, "Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell us?" And it's like, we were trying to keep it a secret, and apparently we did a good job at it, because we took everybody by surprise when it was finally done. Um, but yeah, let's see. Today is Monday, the 8th of February. Feb, Feb, February. And so I guess this would be the March issue of Trains. There's a very good write up in there of basically what happened. And it's, I read through the article. There were a lot of parts where I was like, God, why did you bring that up? Why'd you bring that up? It's like, oh my God, I'm having PTSD. December was a very, very, very rough month. You want to talk about a roller coaster of emotions? That was probably the hardest month I have ever had in my life. And it was like on a daily basis. It was like, well, this has happened. Well, this has happened. Well, this isn't right. That's not right. That's not going to work. Oh my God, what are we going to do? There was, yeah. And that was it. That was one day. That was just one day worth of emotion. It was like, oh my God, what are we doing? it paid off in the end. There at New Year's, it was probably that was a 48-hour marathon. We were we didn't sleep. I got like 1 hour in 2 days. Uh, we were just absolutely exhausted. There was one morning, or I'm sorry, there was one night. It was actually the night that we. It was the night before we did said thing. Um, the night before we pulled it out at like, I guess it probably would have been about 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock. We'd been in there all day in a dimly lit shop with no heat, and it's like 25 degrees outside. It's colder than that in the shop because the shop's got it's a metal walled shop with no insulation and a concrete floor. So we're all in there freezing to death. We're all half sick because just cold and damp and doing that night after night after night after night. I've got a little bit of a cold now because the weather keeps changing here. But we we're there, and there's this one piece of gear that needs to be put on, and one of the guys that was working on it, he's wrenching on it, and then he kind of looks at me, and I'm like, okay, I'll help you out. So I'm literally reaching to grab the wrench. It's I think it was like a 2 inch, 2 and a quarter, something like that. I pick it up, and my arms are on fire, and I'm sitting there trying to tighten this nut down, and my arms are just turning to jello, and I'm like, that's when it hit me. It's like I am beyond exhaustion at this point. That was that was actually the last piece that had to go on. Then we hooked up and pulled it out, and about 6 a.m. in the morning, we started fueling it, and I think we lit off at 11ish, somewhere around in there, 11 o'clock or so. And yeah, you want to talk about long day? It was a long day, but we got through it, and that was in that night. I think it was right around 6 o'clock. It moved for the first time, and that was probably the biggest relief that I've ever had. Is that it was like, yeah, it's gonna work. All the time and all the effort that we put into the thing, it's gonna work. And that was that was finally the point where you know the entire tree came off my shoulder, and it was like, thank God we did it. We actually did it. We did what everybody was saying could not be done. And everybody was saying it'll never get finished, never get finished. All the naysayers, everybody else, why'd they do this? This is stupid. Blah 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 blah. Insert whatever here. We proved them all wrong, and we're like, yeah, it's actually gonna work, and it's still working. So we get past all that. And I've read through stuff online, and even on the YouTube videos that are out of it, and people are just trying to say, what's wrong with it? Where's all that steam coming from? And it's like, I tell people there were zero leaks on that engine. That is the tightest engine that I've ever worked around. It doesn't have any leaks. The stuff that you see that was coming out the front, that was stuff that we left open on purpose. Um, if you really want to call a leak, the one of the gland packings on the engineer side was leaking, and that was because the wire was broke, and we just did not have time to finish it at that point. We didn't have we didn't have time, and B, we didn't have the material on hand to do it. Because all the rest of them were in good shape. That was the one that gave us problems. So yeah, there was one gland packing that was leaking on the engineer side. The rest of them were pretty tight. I think a couple of them weeped. We intentionally left some of that stuff loose just so um, we could, let's see, where's this one? Just so we could check for steam oil getting into certain places and stuff like that. But no, there were no leaks. Somebody tried to say they were like the front joint where the exhaust is on the front engine was like leaking profusely, and it's like, what? You are talking out of your ass. The steam that they were seeing was from uh, the air compressor mufflers are up top. There's a muffler up top in front of the stack, and it has a condensate drain that's up underneath the smoke box. It happens to be right in front of that joint, and we didn't have the pipe that plumbs it down. Uh, and that's all it was. Every time the compressors were running, which the compressors running all the time, uh, for reasons I won't go into, it was something that we needed to work on. But the compressors just ran a lot, and that's where all that steam was coming from. It wasn't there. Trust me, if the engine was not safe to run, we would have stopped it. So, like I said, that is a long explanation to a short story. I am still where I was in December. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. And like I said, I can't. There's a lot of stuff that I can't talk about. I'm going over stuff that is public knowledge now because it's out on YouTube, and the company that I work for has already released all that stuff, so it's out there. What I can tell you is keep an eye out on what's coming up in the future. We're trying to get as much information out there as we can in terms of what's going to happen this year. There was an announcement that was made. Well, I say announcement. There was some speculation made yesterday about a potential thing that could maybe possibly happen at some point in the future. Um, it set the railfan world on fire last night when they put it out. You have to read in between the lines to understand what it's talking about. But yeah, this year it's going to be a struggle just because of what's going on in the world. But we're all committed to giving it the best shot, because if we stop now, then it's not going to go anywhere. Um, we have a lot of stuff in front of us to do, and I plan on sticking it out. So, with that being said, I can't think of anything else to really talk about. Like I said, I can't go into the nitty gritty of everything that went down and what all I was involved with. Just know that there's pretty much nothing on that thing that I have not touched, that I have not physically worked on, including one major component that has yet to go on yet. That was my baby. Well, I say it was mine. It was going to be somebody else's, and they sort of ran out of time to work on it, so it became mine. So, like I said, there's one major component that's yet to go on that I was basically in charge of. Or I took it upon myself to get it done. So that's going to be coming up in the future. Um, so yeah, I can't think of anything else to say. I welcome, you know, questions or whatnot. I can't guarantee that I can say anything about anything about it. All I can tell you is keep eyes on the project. There are good things on the horizon. There's a lot of stuff that's being worked on in the background. That's not public knowledge yet. That will be sometime later this year. So stay tuned for that. In terms of when you're going to hear from me again, who knows? My life is pretty chaotic at this point, and I'm working almost 7 days a week, just trying to get some stuff done that needs to be done, so that we can do what we do. So with that little train gone by, off into the sunset, I will end the video, and hope everyone has a happy and safe year. I hope that everyone stays well. And I do hope that you will stay tuned to what's coming. And if you get an opportunity, that you come up and visit and see the big gal in person, because she is something. So long. Take care.